Behringer have announced the Neptune-80. So hot on the heels of announcing that the UBX-A was going into production, Behringer have announced the Selena is going into production. They've announced the Pro 800 is going in production. And this week they probably topped themselves by announcing the fact that there is a new synth coming called the Neptune-80. But what is the Neptune-80?
Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon.
So what is the Neptune-80? And I will be very clear before I get going that I'm going to be trying a little bit of an experiment with this SMR. Not necessarily over the content of the Neptune-80, but the fact that I've got this camera here, which I'm looking directly at, which is more of a tight shot on me, and this camera here, which is more of a wide shot on me. I'm just trying to see which one kind of works better in the scenario of working in the workshop. I've been trying it all morning actually. I've got various different things that I've been trying. So with a bit of luck it will all work out good. But back to the Neptune-80. So there will be a picture of the Neptune-80 up on the screen somewhere. Probably over here, no, over there. And what is the Neptune-80? Well, for want of a better word, the Neptune-80 is a Juno 60, a Roland Juno 60 that Behringer are reimagining. And it looks pretty faithful to the Juno 60 concept. So for those of you who don't know your Roland history, there was the Juno 6 followed very quickly by the Juno 60, which was pretty much the same machine but with a few things worked out. And then there was the Juno 106, which therefore came a little bit later on, which was a change to. It was a slightly tonal change, and the functionality was improved because technology had improved. So the purists normally go for a 6 or a 60, and the non-purists normally go for a 106 because it's probably more compatible with their studio. Okay, I'm going to get shot down for that statement. I'm probably well aware I am, but that is kind of reality. That's what, well, definitely people I know. They either are in the sort of 66 camp, or they're in the, or probably more in the 60 camp than they are in the 6. But they can, or they're in the 106 camp. So take your pick on that one. Anyway, so what do we know about the Neptune-80? Well, actually, we know very little about the Neptune-80. What Behringer has done is they've released a picture of the front of the machine, which is the picture that was on screen a minute ago. They've released a picture of the back of the machine, which has the word Behringer plastered across the back of it. And they've released a picture of the gubbins of the machine, which shows that the machine, to get inside the machine, or the prototype, you effectively lift the lid up like that. So you don't go in from the bottom like a lot of synths. You actually go in from the top to get into the internals of the machine. Very much the same way that things like the S50 were constructed. This T1 is constructed exactly the same way. That's sitting beside me. So you know, that's how it's constructed. That's all that really Behringer have released. And then in the statement, they've made the statement that it's a synthesizer that people have been asking for. They must have been in the skunk works for a while because they've got a prototype, a fully working prototype of this particular machine. So, you know, you've got to kind of turn around and say, well, they've been doing this for a while. It's an 8 voice. It's polyphonic. There's not an awful lot else in terms of what it's capable of. If you look at the panel layout, it's very reminiscent of a Juno 60 layout, with the notable difference on the left-hand side of the prototype. They currently have an LCD display. They've made comments that it's been brought up to date in terms of MIDI and USB, and obviously it's now got a programmable interface via the LCD display that they've put on it. And that pretty much, guys, is about it. That's all we kind of know. That's all they've released. And you're going to see lots of videos on YouTube that are going to say, oh, you know, and they're all going to be saying exactly the same thing, right? Because that's all that they have told us so far. Now, some people may turn around and say, well, actually, aren't they shooting themselves in the foot? Because wasn't the Deep Mind meant to be a Juno substitute? And the answer is, yes, it was. But probably the Deep Mind was probably more aimed, I think you'll find, I'll get shot down for this one as well, at the 106 rather than the 60. And you know, the Deep Mind wasn't a close comparison to the 60, but it had the same characteristics as the Juno 60 and 106. So is it a comparable? Yes, possibly. Have they shot themselves in the foot? Yes, possibly. Would you buy a Juno? Would you buy a Neptune-80 as opposed to a Deep Mind 12, for argument's sake? I think the jury is probably out on that one. It depends on what you're after. One of the things that is very evident from the prototype that they've shown is it's not a 61-note keyboard, which I think is a mistake, if I'm honest. I would like to see any synth, any synth of that sort of ilk, minimum of 61 notes, and this is not, or it wasn't when I think I counted it, but I've had a few beers since then. So there is this thing about it's not 61 notes, although Behringer, if you are planning to put this into production, please make it 61 notes, because for synth players you just need that additional octave for various reasons. So there you go, that's the Neptune-80. That's what we know about it. It's at this point we get into the debate about devaluing legacy synths. And, you know, a lot of people wade in on this area and say, is Behringer devaluing the legacy synth market? Now, I have a view, and my view is very simple. Many people want the legacy synth technology. I'm one of them. I can't afford to go and buy many of these legacy synthesizers. But you know what? I can afford to buy a Behringer, because Behringer are not going to come in at many, many thousands of pounds to acquire a Juno 60. They're going to probably come in at £1,000 to £1,500, given their statement before Christmas. So that, to me, makes a lot of sense. So they're bringing something to market. They're bringing something to the mass market that replicates what these legacy synths do. Is it going to devalue the legacy synth? No. Here's the simple answer. The legacy synth will maintain its value. Right? These reimaginations, replicas, whatever you want to call them, clones, are not going to devalue the legacy synth market. There is always going to be people out there that want to buy the original, and they have the money to buy the original, and therefore they will pay for the original. Therefore, in my view, the legacy synth market may stabilise. And what do I mean by stabilise? I don't think the values of legacy synths will rocket like they have been over recent years. But I don't think we're going to see a sharp drop in the value of your legacy synth collection. So people who have these legacy synths in their collection, breathe easy. Or don't breathe easy, because that means you will have to go and make sure your insurance is covering the full value of your legacy instrument. And I know many people that have legacy instruments don't have them properly insured. So this is a call for you guys. Go and make sure your insurance is properly covered And a word to the wise guys, I've said this in the past, I've said it on an SMR, your household insurance doesn't cover them. Okay? Especially if you're a musician, you're a gigging musician, your household insurance, unless you have a specific policy, does not cover your synthesizers. If you're a hobbyist, it probably does, but only to a point. So, that's the first part of does it devalue. Now, the second part of does it devalue is, does the introduction of the Neptune-80 devalue the Depp Mind 6 and 12? This is a much more difficult question to answer. And I'm probably I've been wrestling with this in my own mind. Does it devalue what's already there? And the answer is, I am not 100% sure whether it does devalue or doesn't devalue. On one hand, what the Deep Mind was meant to give you was the 6106 functionality, tonal qualities, etc. On the other hand, it's not set up like a Juno 60 would be set up. The panel layout is not the same. And therefore, that's the reason why I'm kind of on the fence. If you want a synthesizer that is kind of like it, then you've got two options. You've got the Deep Mind series of synthesizers from Behringer, or you've got the Juno X reimagined clone that Roland released 18 months ago. Now, neither of those have really devalued the legacy market. Will the Neptune devalue the Deep Mind? I think it will probably stabilise second-hand values for the Deep Mind, and they may drop a bit. And it also might bring the Deep Mind to a production end as well. Now, that's kind of a long shot prediction, but that's where we are. That's kind of reality. And on that note, I'm going to say for this SMR, live long and prosper, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.